I used to believe I was just an average guy living a typical life. I had a stable job in logistics, a humble little house, and a stunning wife named Kayla. We'd been married for 6 years. Our life wasn't glamorous or full of grand gestures, but it was familiar. We had our routines, our version of comfort, or at least that's what I thought. Kayla worked at a marketing agency. She was always driven, dressed to impress, quick-witted, and practically glued to her phone. Her career was on a steady rise, and I genuinely admired her ambition. I never questioned it when she said she had to stay late at the office or attend team retreats. That's what career-focused people do, right? Then came one Friday evening. My company hosted a casual after-hours get-together. Just drinks and small talk at a rented bar downtown. I hadn't planned on staying long, but a few coworkers talked me into hanging around for a bit. That's when I bumped into Ryan. I barely knew the guy. He worked on the operations side of our logistics firm. He was clearly a few drinks in already, beer in hand, swaying slightly as he approached me. "Dude, you're Andrew, right? Kayla's husband." I nodded, a little puzzled but polite. He grinned, then chuckled as he took a sip. "Bro, you're a legend. Your wife and her boss. That whole situation is nuts." My smile faded. "What are you talking about?" He laughed even harder. "Come on, man. Don't tell me you didn't know. Everyone at her office talks about it. She's not exactly subtle. Her and Marcus. Seriously." I stared at him as if time had suddenly slowed. Marcus. The name hit me like a punch to the gut. Her boss. She mentioned him all the time, always with admiration. Charismatic, intelligent, divorced, wealthy. It had never seemed suspicious before. I was speechless, realizing what he'd said. Ryan tried to brush it off. "Forget I said anything," he mumbled, then stumbled away toward the bathroom. I didn't say goodbye to anyone. I left the bar immediately, driving home in silence while my mind spun in 1,000 directions. Felt like a sick joke. It had to be. But deep down, something inside me had already started to crack. Kayla wasn't home when I got back. She told me she was working late again. Couldn't sleep that night. I didn't want to confront her without proof, and a part of me didn't want to believe it at all. But I wasn't naive. Over the following days, I began noticing things I had previously brushed off. The inconsistencies in her stories, how she stepped out of the room to take calls, the difference in her perfume when she came home from the office. So I did something I never imagined myself doing. I pretended everything was normal and started plotting behind the scenes. Within a few weeks, I had secretly installed a tracking app on her phone while she showered. I mirrored her messages and emails to a hidden account I set up. I even created a fake social media profile and followed her private Instagram. She never had a clue. And what I discovered shattered me. Photos of her and Marcus dining at restaurants she said were for client meetings. A weekend getaway to a secluded cabin she claimed was a girls-only trip. And the messages. Explicit texts full of secrets and desire. He called her his secret prize. She referred to him as Daddy Company. I read every single word like I was plunging a knife into myself over and over again. But I didn't let on. I kept up appearances. I smiled. I cooked her breakfast. I listened to her stories as though I still believed them. All the while, I was quietly preparing my next move. Marcus was a golden boy at her firm. Respected, charming, seemingly untouchable. But I knew no one was above consequences. I started by contacting a woman named Sandra, Marcus' ex-wife. She loathed him. When I showed her a few of the screenshots, she didn't hesitate to help. She even put me in touch with a journalist friend who occasionally exposed workplace scandals. Then I began compiling everything. Messages, pictures, locations, timestamp logs. I built a digital archive of their affair. But the real nail in the coffin? Kayla's company had a strict no-fraternization policy. Romantic involvement between managers and employees was explicitly forbidden. It was buried deep in the employee manual, but it was there. And then it was time for fallout. I sent the entire archive, screenshots, locations, messages, photos, to her company's HR department using an anonymous email. At the same time, The journalist I had spoken with released a subtle but damning article exposing questionable behavior inside a fast-growing digital marketing agency. The piece never named names, but it included just enough detail: quotes from ex-employees, veiled references to inappropriate relationships, and whispers of favoritism to stir the pot. The fallout was beautiful. Marcus didn't get publicly fired, but he was encouraged to step away. Internally, everyone knew he was forced out. Kayla, on the other hand, was spared termination but not humiliation. She was demoted. Her social circle at work vanished almost overnight. No more team meetings. No more travel plans. No more office praise. She became a ghost to her own building, acknowledged but not respected. One evening she walked through the door looking drained and red-eyed. She mumbled something about things feeling off at work, how people were treating her differently and pulling away. I simply nodded, poured her a glass of wine, and said nothing. And then, when the moment felt right, I finally spoke. "I know about Marcus," I said, my tone even and calm. "I've known for a while." She froze. Her face drained of color like someone had flipped a switch. She opened her mouth but couldn't form a single word. "I've seen everything," I continued. "The messages, the pictures, the trips. I know exactly what you've been doing." She broke. Tears started falling. She tried to explain, to paint it as a mistake, something that just happened, but I didn't flinch. "I'm not filing for divorce," I told her. "Not yet." She looked confused, unsure whether to feel relieved or terrified. "We're going to keep living in this house. You'll pay your share of the bills, do your own laundry, cook your own meals. I'll pretend everything's fine until I decide otherwise. You'll live in this mess every single day." "Why not just leave?" she whispered. "Because I want you to sit with the wreckage," I replied coldly. "I want you to feel what it's like to ruin something and have to wake up in it every morning." Time dragged on. Weeks turned to months. She shrank into herself, quieter, humbler. She started trying, making breakfast, asking about my day, buying me little gifts. But none of it mattered. I gave her nothing. No arguments. No affection. Not even anger. Just silence. And that silence hurt more than any shouting ever could. Eventually, I moved on. I sold the house and used the profits to relocate. She had to find somewhere else to stay. I didn't give her closure. Didn't explain a thing. She was left with an empty shell where our life used to be. She reached out a few times afterward. Long, emotional messages, some apologizing, others reminiscing about our better years, a few laced with desperation. "We had something real, didn't we? I still believe we can fix it. Marcus meant nothing. It was just a mistake." I never replied. Not once. I didn't block her either. I wanted her to feel the weight of my silence, the space where my presence used to be. Eventually the messages slowed down, and then stopped. I think that's when it finally hit her, that I was truly gone. Not just in the house, but from her world, from her heart. I found peace in small things. Brewing coffee at sunrise, cooking my own meals, hitting the gym after work, spending quiet weekends outdoors. I didn't rush into dating. I wasn't looking to replace her. I didn't need to. I was free. A few months later, I ran into Ryan again, the guy who'd unknowingly triggered it all. This time he was sober. When he saw me, his face fell. "Hey man," he said carefully. "About that night at the bar. I didn't mean to screw things up. I was drunk and..." I cut him off with a smile. "Actually, Ryan, thank you." He looked confused. "You did me a favor," I said. "You just didn't realize it." We ended up grabbing a drink. He told me Marcus had been blacklisted by several companies. Word had spread. No one wanted to associate with scandal that messy. Kayla? She was still stuck at the same company. No promotions. No power. Just average now. A far cry from the rising star she once was. As for me, I started my own logistics consultancy. Word of mouth, a few loyal contacts from my old job, it all came together. Slowly but surely, I built something clean. Something honest. Something mine. Every now and then, I get a ping on social media. Like a follow. A message that said something like, "Hey stranger." It was always her. But I never opened them. Because I didn't need to. She already knew. She already lost. And I had already won. Not by yelling, not by pleading, but by walking away quietly while they choked on the consequences of their own choices.